I was trying to escape some emotion, and the emotion that I had tagged was loneliness. What would happen if I spend 7 days away from it? What would happen to my life? More energy, mental clarity, even it feels like I was even more attractive to the opposite sex.
Dan, welcome to the podcast, man. Thanks so much for being on here.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Okay, I'm going to cut to the chase. I have to ask, you're kind of like a fitness, personal development, self-help guy, huge followings. You've really built an incredible brand, and you have a very, very good message that I think is very authentic and honest and obviously valuable. I think that's why you've grown so much. Why would somebody like you talk about pornography?
Just cutting straight to the chase over here.
I'm just going for it, man. Yeah.
Going straight for the gut. I always say that my mess is my message. And for me, I look at things as like pornography, food, social media addiction. These are things that we use to get away from ourselves. For me, pornography was not really something that I was hyper addicted to. I just know that I was using it as a routine inside of my life. And I was using it in the way where I was trying to escape some emotion, and the emotion that I had tagged was loneliness. The thing about these things, let's just say it's pornography or even things like food, is there is always a physiological component to it and a psychological component to it. The physiological component to it is oh, cool, you get to release and you feel good, and you do it with some really crazy types of scenes and varieties of women and all these kind of things. But the psychological component was me escaping boredom in myself. And I remember there was a time where, and just in general, I do this on a regular basis with myself, where I ask myself, why is this a part of my life? So one of the things I did was ask myself, why is alcohol a part of my life, since I've been drinking it since I was in high school? One of the other ones was okay, so why has porn been a part of my life? And for me, I always want to zoom out, and I always want to go to my extremes to find what the balance is and to find out if I even want these things in my life in the first place. So I remember it was during a pretty bad breakup, and I was with this girl, thought we were going to get married, all that kind of stuff. We were living together, and then she ends up breaking up with me. And one of the things that I love to do is, or I like to say is when one closed door open or closes, or when one door closes, another one opens. So I needed to focus on something. I needed to focus on something to give attention to. And one of the things I tagged was this question, which was okay, so porn's been a part of my life, and I'm pretty sure it's been up a lot of my relationships as well. So what would happen if I spend 7 days away from it? What would happen to my life? And during that time, I believed on Reddit, there was the whole thing of the NoFap community and people getting all these benefits. And that to me, I was reading this PDF full of all these benefits. And I was just oh, cool. Boost testosterone, more mental clarity, all this kind of stuff. And I was okay, this is my entry drug into something that could be cool. So I ended up stopping porn for about 7 days, and I journaled every single day, sometimes even twice a day, of what was happening.
Just because you knew you wanted to document it? Or how did you know to journal about it?
I took it as this experiment for myself. And when you do experiments, you have to have observations, day-to-day observations. And to me, it's the experimentation part of it is what made it so exciting and cool. So I ended up journaling, not even every day, multiple times a day. 2:00, this is what happened. This is what happened. This is what happened. 8 a.m. This is what happened. This is what happened. And then I would look back on my journals and I'd be if I'm getting these types of benefits, which were more energy, mental clarity, and even it feels like I was even more attractive to the opposite sex, I was what would happen if I go 14 days? What would happen if I go 21 days? And I remember I went through almost a 6 month to an 8 month stretch. I don't remember how long it was, but it was super long, where I journaled every single day that I was away from porn.
Wow.
And I never went back. I never went back because something that I realized when I was away from porn, and the thing about it is that once you zoom out and you give yourself distance away from a certain habit, you are able to see what place it has in your life. And because of the fact that I was journaling every single day during this entire It was supposed to be 7 days, which turned into like this 8 month, and now it's like almost like multi-year long journey.
Yeah.
I realized that I was using porn as a way to get away from the emotions that I was facing.
Huh.
And every time that I would get the release, that would be my way of feeling like I'm in control of something. And it wasn't until I gained awareness and shined a light as to my behavior and why I was actually doing it. You can't have change without awareness. That's the whole thing. So
True.
so for me, it's like my journey into stopping porn turned into this entire journey of just like understanding who I was at the core level, and
Yeah.
my triggers as to like the reasons why I do things. So
Yeah.
so yeah, like I did a video on it on YouTube. I actually got like crazy. It actually got crazy views. I guess like a lot of people are dealing with this stuff. And to me, it was one of the turning points in my life where I was getting control of the one thing I had control over, which was like my behavior and also my mind and also my relation to sex in general.
It's funny. That sounds like a lot of our client journeys. Like they hear, man, if you quit porn, you get all these benefits. And then you get into it and then you're like, oh, wow. In addition to these benefits, there's actually a lot about myself that I didn't know. Or you realize that porn is a coping mechanism and there's something deeper underneath, like you're talking about. At what point in this journey, because you kind of mentioned your initial target was just 7 days and now you haven't looked back. At what point did you realize, okay, this is like, I actually didn't realize how much I was using this to cope with. I think you mentioned loneliness and boredom previously. When did those dots connect?
I can't say exactly when they connected or the exact time that they connected. I do believe that change happens incrementally. And it's almost like you're every single day, like you're peeling the onion every single day. And there's a multitude of layers behind that onion. And it was more so this gradual realization of the awareness around what I was using it for.
Hmm.
And when I had that gradual realization, who knows? It could have been like month 8, or it could have been like week 6.
Yeah.
But the more that I had this distance away from it, the more I could actually look at it like almost like looking at a small organism and just observing the reasons why this organism lives, the reason why it does the things that it does to survive. And I do believe that the more that you have this space between your reaction or the action and the reaction that you would have, the more that you gain that awareness. But you can't have that awareness if you are not actually journaling and not actually giving yourself that awareness in the first place. I did
Yeah.
the exact same thing when I said, I'm going to stop drinking. When I told myself I'm going to stop drinking, I'm not going to drink for 21 days, I journaled every single day. And I do believe that this is probably one of the biggest tools that you can have when you're trying to get rid of something that has a negative influence on your life. Because what you're going to do is what's going to happen is that you're going to peek behind the layers as to your behavior. And you also don't get at it from the surface. What happens as a result is like you realize the actual thing that triggered it in the first place if you go back hard enough. So one of the things I realized back then was my dad. My dad actually, like, I was rummaging as I do as a kid, just like I'm so bored. I'm just like rummaging everywhere. And I go in and then like at the end, at the bottom of his hamper, I see this like VHS tape. That's how old I am.
Okay.
And I pop in the VHS tape and lo and behold, it's that. And then so this turned into this
How old
whole
were you,
thing
by
where
the
I would,
way?
what's that?
How old were you when that happened?
Oh man, I was probably 10, 11, 12 years old or something like
Okay.
that.
Okay. Got it.
And then it turned actually into this thing where I do it in secret, where no, my dad doesn't know that I know where his like stash is or his one stash, and then I would do it in secret, and I would just like look at it and be like, oh crazy, and then like I'd hear a rustle and then be like, shove myself and make sure everything looks the same. And then what we don't realize when we get back as far deep into like the past reasons like why we actually started in the first place, we don't see like, oh cool, like this actually has a relation to the behavior that I have around porn right now. Like porn to me is like a very secretive thing. People are not really overt about it. They're very covert. And then that also has this it also has an effect on our psyche where we're trying to like hide things away from people because we feel shame around them.
Yeah.
So for me it's like if I didn't do the journaling practice, and if I didn't do the everyday consistency of journaling my experiences as I was giving this thing up, I would not have that awareness. And that awareness doesn't come like in this flash of light where this light bulb goes off. Oh, there's a reason why I am the way I am. It actually just comes from like the constant chiseling
Yeah.
of the journaling, the constant chiseling of awareness. It's almost like the person who, like, I think there's like the meme where a person keeps on like chiseling and he stops right before he gets to the diamond, and then you have the other person who just like goes straight for it. So it's almost like that. You just have to keep on doing it, and then eventually over the course of time, that's where you're going to gain that awareness.
Yeah, it's so good. And man, it's interesting you're talking about awareness so much because Deep Clean is the name of my coaching practice that has helped guys quit pornography for years now. And we developed this little 3-pillar system. And the first pillar is building self-awareness. And our little proverb to go with it is, if you're not aware, it cannot be repaired.
Yeah.
And I love that you're hitting on that. That was not a setup. This was not pre-planned, by the way, but it's just cool that that for you was so impactful, because I think when we don't have that awareness, like, I mean, you help so many people improve their overall quality of life, get in better shape, make better decisions. And I have to imagine that when you're coaching people, this is a huge part of your initial process with them, is just bringing to light how certain things that they think are normal are actually really destructive, right? Or certain things that they're like, oh, I've heard you're supposed to do that, but like, what's the big difference? And it's like, no, dude, this is the thing that you need to focus on. Would that be true in that industry, that you're also doing the same thing, building that awareness?
Absolutely. So everyone thinks, let's just say, getting in shape is tactical. And they think it's like, okay, so tell me how many calories I have to eat, or tell me like the diet I have to do, tell me the workout I have to do. I'm just going to go do it, and automatically, like, therefore I change. That is not the case whatsoever. What you have to do is, and I say this in my practice, where awareness is the precursor to change. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. So you have to understand the reasons why you are the way that you are. And if you don't understand the reasons why you are the way that you are, you go through life unconscious, and you go through, even, you could do all the tactical things, lose 30 pounds, 50 pounds off of your body. But if you actually lack the awareness as to the reasons why you behave the way that you behave, you're just automatically going to go back to where you were. I'll use an example where one of our clients, he had a problem with binge eating every single night. He could control his diet all the way up to 8, but once 8 o'clock hit, it was like, it was like a free for all. Like, I'm just going to have pizza, ice cream, and I'm just going to keep on eating until I feel like I either feel shame or feel satisfied, which usually the shame comes first. So we asked him, and we do this thing called the theory of constraints, which is like, okay, so like a business, we always want to work on one constraint at a time. In your case, if the constraint is binge eating at night, the system is, first we have to gain awareness as to the root cause of why this is happening. And a lot of people are like, oh, I'm just stressed out and whatever. That's the reason why I eat at night. Okay, cool. Like, that's cool. But there's always going to be this physiological response and the psychological response to the things that you do and the constraints that you have, especially when it comes to getting in shape. So his physiological response was like, okay, well, I don't have a regular eating schedule. The quality of my food suck. Okay, cool. We'll fix that. Now, the psychological side is much different. We have to peel back the layers. So when we peeled back the layer with him, we went all the way back to when he was being raised by his grandma. So this guy was being raised by his grandma. He was a latchkey kid. His grandma was the one that taking care of him. So every single time, his parents would never come home at night. He would always be sleeping by the time they came home. Because he was such a rambunctious kid, his grandma would actually give him food to shut him up. So once she gave him food to shut him up, he would actually have something that was a reward, and also something that he could control. And it wasn't until we gained awareness around why he does what he does, every single time he would do it, be like, I'm just doing it because I'm stressed. No. The stress is the symptom. It's not the cause. Once we find the cause, then we can actually go about with the healing. Yeah, and then once we get to the healing, once we bring awareness, and once we start to heal this, and we also start to kind of like point ourselves into new beliefs, into new ideas of like who we can be, then we can actually do real change. We don't have to do just the surface level change. I always look at like tactics as like the conscious part, which is like the iceberg, which is like you have 10% at the top. Underneath, you have the spiritual and the emotional, the subconscious part of things. The conscious part is the part that will inform and communicate with the subconscious and the emotional, but it can only do that with enough awareness. So we have to make sure that we fix things at the root, which is usually going to be psychological. And then we use like tactical things like the physiology and the tactical things that we do to make sure that we apply action to fixing the constraint.